To advertise restaurants. I'm glad I didn't say Taco Bell, you know. Well, thank you. It's been a blessing. It's gone by fast, and we're looking forward to several years ahead, Lord willing. And so we pray that you'll join us as we continue. It is our purpose to teach you the Bible. That is really what Sunday morning is about. We are not trying to entertain you. We are really trying to help you see how valuable God's Word is and give you a taste. It's like taking one potato chip and you go, ooh, that was good. I'd like to have another one. And I hope that in looking at the Word together, you go, man, I've got to get into the Bible and study the Scriptures. And so that's our heart's passion for you. Well, we are just beginning this little journey in the book of Ecclesiastes. This is the second message. And last week I introduced the book a little bit. I told you that the Bible is unique, different than any other book ever printed. It is different in so many ways, but it is God's book. He spoke through instruments that wrote down what He wanted. We know that because of the implausibility of the Bible being true in so many ways and being constant in its theme. There's no way over 1,500 years that you could have 39 different authors write down things that were not conflicting in worldview and in values without an author that was behind it, who was the Holy Spirit. One of the unique things about the Bible is unique things within the Bible, and the book of Ecclesiastes is unique. You remember Solomon, the author, was gifted by God when he began his ministry after his father David fought for 40 years, and he gave Solomon the kingdom, and it was now peace, and he was going to rule the greatest, most powerful nation in the world at that time. And enjoy peace. And so Solomon was visited by God in a dream, and God said to him, "What do you want? I'll give you anything you want." And he asked for wisdom to rule his people. And so God endowed him with amazing ability to think, to reason, to come to conclusions, to have a brilliant mind. And so Solomon was given wisdom. Well, one of the things that he writes about in this book is that he uses the phrase over and over again, under the sun, under heaven. And he is trying to help us to know that when you take God out of the equation, when you remove spiritual things and the fact that you say there's like no God, no judgment, no afterlife. And so he said, I want to just have an experiment. And so he spent basically his entire life looking for satisfaction, looking for meaning, looking for purpose in this world. And so it was his mission in life, with the brightest mind, with the most money, with no limitations to anything he wanted to do, and he did it all, as you're going to see, and to find the answer to that question. It's a question that all of us ask ourselves from time to time. Why am I here? What's the purpose? Is this it? Same old thing, over and over, same job, same this, same that. And life can become monotonous. Life can wear you out if that is all you're doing, is just trying to do life apart from Jesus. So the question of satisfaction. It is not that things are not satisfying. We do a lot of first experiences that are satisfying. The first time you've gone to some place like Disneyland. Wow, unbelievable. Can't wait to go back the next day. Next day, not quite as good. By the third day, you're going, man, we got to get out of here. And so there's a decreasing level of everything you do. First time at the Big Dipper. Yes, thank God for Big Dipper. And but if you ate there every day for a month, you would go, oh, come on. I am so done with ice cream. And so that's how it is with life. And that's how it is with experiences of life. Even though they may be satisfying, there's some degree of satisfaction that we get. We think that well, maybe I'll try it again, and maybe it'll be better. And it doesn't. There's a decline in the enjoyment that we have with those things. So I want to ask you a personal question this morning. What is the thing that you're looking for that'll make you happy? So if you had to fill in the blank, for me to be happy, I need, what would you put in the blank? I need to acquire this. I need to experience this. I need to have this. How would you fill in the blank? Well, honestly, all of us are asking ourselves that question on a kind of regular basis. We're trying to find something that will bring some satisfaction to our life. For some people, it would be health. They are struggling with their health, and they say, man, if I could just get healthy, man, I'd be happy. And other people, it's trying to find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. Because if I could find that person that would make me complete, then I would be happy. Other people, it's finding the right job. Or if I could just find that job, I know there's a job out there that I'll just be excited and can't wait to get up and do. I just never found that job. And they think that if I can find that job, we all believe that it makes, that what we need is just around the corner. It's just the next change that we have to make in life. But eventually, we all find out that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. How do I know that? Because if I took you back 15 or 20 years and I asked you the same question that I asked you now, what's the one thing you're looking for to make you happy? Many of you, 15 or 20 years ago, that thing you were looking for, you have it. You got your hands on it. You experienced it. And now, if I ask you the same question, you're moving on. You're saying, well, I've tried that. Now it's something bigger, better, faster, more exciting. And that's how life works. So I want you to know that even though you believe that intellectually, if you're a Christian, we don't practice it. Here's the truth. And here's really, if I was going to boil down the book of Ecclesiastes to one statement, is this: happiness is not out there. Happiness is an inside job. And even though we experience that, we don't practice that. We don't believe it. So this morning, let's look at Solomon as he continues this mission to find satisfaction. In verses 12 through 14, he gives us his experiences and tells us about it. So watch. He said, I applied my mind. Remember, his mind is beyond anything we could ever imagine. He's an incredible thinker. He said, I applied my mind to study, to search out, and to explore by wisdom. So I'm going to make this my calling. I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to explore every aspect. I'm going to look under every rock. I am going to do my due diligence in all that is done under heaven. So I'm going to check it all out. And he said, what a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. It seems like that, doesn't it? It seems like a burden sometimes that we are living life in same rut and same things, and we just get overwhelmed by the monotony of life. And Solomon said, I'm going to find it. If it's out there, I'm going to discover it. He said in verse 14, I've seen all the things that are done under the sun. Again, taking God out of the picture. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. How silly it would be if you had a fishing net in your hand and you were running around and you were trying, and people thought, well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm chasing the wind. And we would go, that's foolish. You can't catch the wind. And Solomon is saying, if you think that you can find that thing that's going to go, that's it. God says it's like chasing the wind. And so he is going to try to prove that to us through his life experiences. He says in verse 15, here's one of these statements that are remembered and used by so many people, one of these little pithy statements. What is crooked cannot be made straight, What is lacking cannot be numbered. He said, the things that are crooked cannot be made straight using human means. In other words, you can't find people that are broken and fix them using human means without God. Psychology tries to do that all the time. Psychology, the reason it can't fix people is because it doesn't have the right premise. If you do not believe that man is crooked, that his heart is crooked, that he's a sinner, that he has a sinful nature, you can't fix somebody using human methods. What happens is you end up giving people pills and someone to blame. So here's a pill that'll make you feel better, or a pill to put you to sleep and help you to get up, and help you to endure stress. And then here's the reason why you're feeling this way. It's got to be your parents. It's got to be your job. It's got to be some event, someone, and something to put the blame on. And so if you don't believe that people are broken, you really can't fix them spiritually. So God wants us to know that not only are people broken, but the government's broken. Amen? Say amen to that. And you can't fix the government by passing new regulations, new laws. Every president does that. And some people cheer, and some people boo. But ultimately, you're not going to fix man's problems by passing laws. No, same is true with a broken business. And so God wants us to know only Jesus can solve a crooked heart. And here's the newsflash for you. You have a crooked heart. All of us have a crooked heart. Our heart is bent toward away from God, not toward Him. And we all think, I got this. I can do this. I'm a big boy. I'm smart. I'm talented. And I can handle this. And God is saying, that is why I allow people to have frustration in life. Isn't frustration frustrating? I mean, you go to some project and you you say, I can do this, and maybe it's some event, skiing or ice skating, and you just keep falling down and it doesn't work. You can't. It's how when computers go wrong, I go, and you just want to throw it, and things can be frustrating in life. God said, the reason life is frustrating when you try to do it and it doesn't work and it doesn't work and it doesn't work is because I'm trying to get you to look up. So God allows frustration to take place in our life because He wants us to come to an end of ourselves. He goes on in verse 16 and 17, he says, I look to myself, look, I'm wiser than any of the kings who ruled in Jerusalem before me. That's not a pride statement. That's a true statement. He was smarter than all the kings. I have greater wisdom and knowledge than any of them. So I set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. But I learned firsthand that pursuing all this is like chasing the wind. So Solomon is saying, here's the deal. If being smart, if intellectualism, if that was the ticket, man, he said, I'd be the happiest guy in the world because I'm the smartest guy in the world. If intellectualism, it was the ticket, if, in other words, learning, if discovering something new. How many of you watch the Discovery Channel? And you go, oh, I didn't know that. And, if that was the ticket, people would just be completely satisfied by just learning. Matter of fact, if that was the case, the universities' campuses would be utopia. I mean, people would be walking around like they're on drugs. This is awesome. I'm learning. And everybody would be just filled with joy because they were going to school. And that's not what you find in the university at all. You find a lot of people with controversies and political activism and humanism being taught, all kinds of weird ideas, professors that are dissatisfied with life and disillusioned. And so the idea that, if I could only get another degree, that's what I need. It's just another degree. A lot of people that study a lot agree with verse 18. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. The increased knowledge only increases sorrow. And so I want you to know, it's not academics. It's not saying, I just need to be smarter. I just need another degree. You know, I've been a pastor, as he said, longer than some people have been alive. And one of the things I've realized is that most Christians believe the right things. They just don't apply it to their life. Most people believe that it's true what Solomon is teaching, but we don't practice that. We still think that I would be happy if I could only have this. I could only get my hands on that. Then I would be happy. And we don't live that. We understand it, but we still, it doesn't quench the desire. So Solomon wants us to know that the thirst for sexual pleasure, that's not it either. And our culture is the most sexually perverse culture that America has ever experienced. And so watch what Solomon says. He tries the fast lane. He decides, I'm just going to go to Vegas and hang out. And so he said in verse 1, I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that, he said, also proved to be meaningless. Now remember, Solomon was a guy that had the ability to experience any kind of sexual pleasure he wanted. You know, today we are living the American dream in the sense that we have today more of everything. Our culture, our generation has more money, more entertainment, more pleasurable experiences, more recreation. You can go on the internet and find things, explore things, buy anything than any generation ever. What's the result? This generation is taking more pills than ever before. Pills to get up, pills to stay up, pills to go to sleep, pills to handle stress. We are now seeing an epidemic. People are dying in record numbers because of taking overdoses of pills. Matter of fact, it has changed the age that we were on. We were on this upward climb of people going longer and longer and living longer and longer, and all of a sudden it kind of leveled off, and people that study go, oh, what's happening? People are not continuing to live longer and longer. You know why? Because there were so many people dying through pills that it changed the actual curve of how long people are living. And so we are not satisfied. We're not happy. And so even though we keep trying all these things, Solomon said, Hugh Hefner has nothing. He knows nothing. Solomon had 700 wives. Now, unlike today, you would go, oh, one's enough. I don't want more than one. And really, but he had wives that had no control. They had really very little influence on him if he chose not to. But beyond the wives, 700, he had 300 what the Bible calls concubines. You know, that was call girls. And so at any time, he could have sex with any girl, any time he wanted. So, sometimes men think, I just need more sex. And many times wives think that the only thing you really want in life is sex. And I don't say amen, ladies, and just go, oh, that's true. And so I want you to understand, here's the thing, guys. Solomon is saying, if you had the opportunity to have it as much as you wanted, with many different people as you wanted, it ends in meaninglessness. It has no value. It is not the payoff that you think it is going to be. And so Solomon is saying, I've done that, and it leads to brokenness. You look at people like this Larry Nassar, who for 20 years abused these Olympic young girls who came to him, trusting him, and thinking that he was helping them when he was molesting them repeatedly over and over again. And they thought it was them. And they had all this shame and brokenness. Here's a guy that never got satisfied with even the perversions of life. It continued and continued and continued. And so sin never satisfies anything, whatever, no matter what you're doing. Well, after all the sex and physical pleasures, Solomon said, you know what I need is someone to make me laugh. I just need to laugh a little bit more. So he said, laughter, I'm going to go and find people that'll make me laugh. Now, you know something? If you had all the money in the world, you could hire all the comics in the world, right? You could bring people in by all the clowns and all the people that do the comedy acts, and you could just have them all the time trying to get you to laugh, telling you new stories, new jokes. And Solomon tried that for a while, hanging out at the comic clubs. And he said, it turns out that it's just madness. Just madness. In other words, listen, anything wrong with sex? Absolutely not. God gave it to us. It's wonderful within the bounds of marriage. It's awesome. And but same thing with laughter. Anything wrong? No. Having opportunities to have fun and pleasure that's godly is a good thing. It's a balance, but it's not the end all. Parents should encourage their children, especially teenagers, to read the book of Ecclesiastes before they get out of high school and understand that Solomon had done it all and tried it all and couldn't find it. You know, sometimes we think that comics are just really always funny. I would listen to Robin Williams when they interviewed him when he was off stage, and he was always funny. I mean, I go, man, that guy's hilarious all the time. He's just kind of a crazy guy that just makes people laugh. Until one day I found out he took his life and found out he was in despair. He was sad and broken inside. And it's true of a lot of comics. And so it's not laughter in itself. Solomon, again, is not attacking a healthy sense of humor and God-honoring pleasure. The point is, it doesn't continue to satisfy. And someone said, laughter can momentarily distract us from real pain, but it cannot overcome it. Boy, is that true. Some of the most famous comics, you study their life, and they're pretty sad. People like Bill Cosby, not working out real well for him right now. Or Steve Martin or Joan Rivers. And so that's not the issue. So Solomon, again, is trying to determine if pleasure is the thing that should drive my life. In other words, if I had all the money and all the time and I didn't have any other responsibilities and I could just give myself to pleasure, would that be it? It's kind of like when you hear people say, I can't wait to retire. Man, when I get done retiring, I'm just going to fish all the time. I'm just going to golf all the time. I want you to know, those people get bored in just a little while. That is not the end all. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not the end all. And Solomon is trying to help us see that. Well, he said, I've left the comic club. I think I'll go to the bar. And so he said, I've tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind's still guiding me with wisdom. In other words, he said, I tried every kind of wine. He said, I was a connoisseur of wine. And I tried all the drinking aspects of that you can have. And it doesn't matter where you're at on the social drinking thing. Some people say nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing, you can go to the scriptures and you can't say that having a glass of wine or having a beer is wrong. But, and matter of fact, here's a couple of scriptures to support you. You'll say, yeah. And Ecclesiastes 9:7 says, drink your wine with a cheerful heart, for God has already accepted your works. And then Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, a feast is prepared for laughter, and wine makes life happy. And so there's not anything sinful about that. It is when that begins to control you. It's when that is the substitute for you trying to deal with the pain in your life. Physical, especially emotional pain. So I just need another drink. I just need another drink. And we have seen in our life what drunkenness does. It kills people when people get behind the wheel. and it causes all kinds of grief domestically in situations. And so Solomon is saying, I experienced all that. I looked at it from every angle. I had every kind of conceivable party with as many people as you can imagine, with the best food and as much of it, and it doesn't work. It leaves you empty. He said here, I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. And Solomon ended up saying, it's empty. So Solomon then turns to another way to try to find fulfillment. He said, I took upon myself great projects. I'm going to build things. And he became an architect, and he built houses, not just a house, not normal houses. I mean, these were things that nobody had ever seen before. And he says, I built myself houses and planted vineyards. Not the kind of vineyard you think of, a little vineyard behind the house, you know. No. He probably had acres and acres of vineyards. They were probably the very best, the best grapes that anybody had ever seen. He was a guy that had a standard that was way beyond what we could imagine. And so he got into that, and he did that for a while. And that didn't work. He said, I think I'll do some gardening. And it wasn't just a normal little garden behind your house. He probably had, again, a huge gardens. And wasn't just producing a fruit or vegetable. It was the best. How many of you have a park that's yours? We go visit national parks. Solomon owned Glacier. I mean, it would be like he just owns that. That's my park. And he developed these kind of things. And it was just for he was trying to find that satisfaction in life. Matter of fact, with all the stuff that he did and planted, he came up with ways to water it. He made reservoirs to water groves and flourishing trees. Those pools that he designed and made, you can still visit those in Israel. And he came up, because of his brilliance, he was able to come up with all these ways to keep things alive and to water them. I think he was trying to create the Garden of Eden again. He says, I had a few slaves, male and female slaves. And I had other slaves, too, that were born in the house. Now, wouldn't it be awesome to have just one slave? Now, that's not socially good to say, right? So what if we said, my personal assistant, not a slave, but my personal assistant who does everything I ask him to do? Would it be nice just to have somebody that just did what you didn't want to do? Like, this personal assistant would clean your house every day for you. Oh, that'd be wonderful. And dishes, I got that, personal assistant said. I got the dishes, no problem. Hey, would you mind going to the grocery store too? And oh yeah, I got that. Would you mind fixing some? Oh yeah, I'll do all the food for you, anything you want. Oh, I love it. It's great. We have dogs. You mind feeding them? Oh, sure, I'll take care of that. You mind picking up the poop too? Yeah, I got that. And not a problem. I have a car. I really like a clean vehicle. You mind washing it even during the winter? I like it clean all the time. Detail it once in a while. Oh, no problem. Got that. The kids, I got to run them all over. They have all these events. You mind just being the taxi cab for them? Oh, sure, I got that. Oh, nice. My back itches all the time. You mind scratching my back? And my feet get sore. Would you mind massaging my feet? Oh, sure. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful just to have somebody do all that stuff? Solomon said, I had multiple people who waited on me hand and foot, did everything I wanted, even more that were born in my house. So he said, I've done the slave thing too. He said, you think that if you just had a place where you had some horses, had some animals, had more of them, that would be it. My dream life would be to have this. I want you to know Solomon owned not just herds and flocks, sheep, goat, horses, cattle. He had blue ribbon winners. I mean, they were the best. They weren't just animals. So again, Solomon is trying everything conceivable, all the things that you could think of, and he said it's still empty. Then he said, I amassed silver and gold for myself. In 2 Chronicles, it says that silver was as common in Israel or in Jerusalem as stones. It was unbelievable how much money this guy amassed. And the treasure of kings and providences. And so he said, I acquired male and female singers. We love entertainment. That's why we go to Vegas. And there's shows that I've gone to Vegas and seen the shows, and they're awesome. They're really thrilling. I mean, can you imagine being a guy that you could have what's the, I'm trying to think of the name, the act that they do all the acrobatic stuff? Circus Soleil. So you would just own them. They would just come and they would perform for you every night. We all like singers. Solomon just he could have people sing for him anytime he wanted. Name a famous singer you like. I mean, if you could choose a singer to have them come and sing next Sunday, who would it be? There you go. Lambert and country and somebody else. Adele. Somebody else. Mercy Me. Who else? Jeremy Camp. Yep. All right. I mean, these people that we go, oh, I bought a ticket. I got a ticket to the concert. Solomon had them anytime he wanted. He just said, hey, sing. Now you sing. And they sang till he said stop. So he had all the entertainment that you could possibly dream of all the time. So again, it's not entertainment, and it's not having the things of the arts. Well, Solomon was beyond famous, right? He said, I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. He wasn't just famous in Jerusalem and Israel. Like there are celebrities that we don't even know their names or faces that are in Japan, that are in Indonesia, that are in Europe, and we go, oh, and we don't, no. Solomon, everybody in the world knew that name. He was the celebrity, the most famous person. In all this, my wisdom stayed with me. So Solomon was a guy who had it all. And matter of fact, he kind of sums it up in the next verse. He said, I did not watch this. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. You ever have that happen to you? Oh, of course not. There's lots of stuff you see. Oh, I'd like to have one of those. Oh, it's too much. Not Solomon. There was no price tag for him. He could have anything his eyes desired, as much of it as he wanted. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, all the efforts that I had. I enjoyed a lot of that. And this was the reward, watch, of all my toil. You want to know what it was? Verse 11 says, yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and that I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Amazing. Here's a guy that had it all and could have experienced enjoyed so much, and yet he tried to find things that were going to satisfy his life and outdo everybody at everything, and yet nothing worked. I started by saying, if you could fill in the blank, I will be happy when I achieve this, when I have that, when I gain that. So how's that working right now? Solomon is saying, oh, I've done that times 10. Did that times 20. I had 100 of those. You know, one of the things we have a hard time believing? The testimony of other people. You know why I know that? Teenagers. They listen to you as a parent say, no, don't do that. Why, Dad? Because I'm telling you from personal experience, that doesn't work. I did that when I was your age, and it was bad. You know what your kids are thinking? It's because you're not as smart as me. I'm not you, Dad. I can win, you can't. All of us believe that. And so God is saying, here's a guy, Solomon, that did it times 100, and it did not work. Our culture today says, don't repress any desires. Do it all. And Solomon is lovingly warning us that indulging your emotions is dangerous and will lead you down dark paths without restraint. Pleasure is a good thing, but if it turns into a God thing, it will end up enslaving you and being an enslaving thing. So let me summarize this message today in 3 statements. Number 1, sensual pleasure holds out promises that lack staying power. Pleasures say, if you do this, oh man, you will feel good. I've heard testimonies of people who said, you know, I tried cocaine. And the first time I did it, it was unbelievable. Cocaine says, try me, and I will give you an experience you've never felt before. And you know what? It does, but it doesn't last. And so the person goes back and gets more. And then he buys more. And pretty soon, his job and his family and everything he knows about responsibility goes down the window. And he doesn't care about anything else because he thinks, I just have to have one more of those experiences that don't last. And that's true with any pleasure that's out there. It doesn't have any staying power. Here's another one. Sensual pleasures offer to open our eyes, but in reality they blind us. Pornography promises that you can continue to see new things and new experiences. And so, by the way, 1/3 of all hits on the internet are pornographic. 1/3. And so our society is addicted. And so what happens is you go into this dark web of pornography and it steals your heart. It steals and corrupts your imagination. God gave us the gift of imagination, and you can waste it on evil that has no lasting benefit and no benefit to your life now. Or you can turn from that and you can use your imagination, your God-given imagination, for good things and to solve wonderful problems and to be a person of wisdom. And so God says, I want you to know, it'll blind you to the very things that I want you to have. And so that's not the answer. And then third, sensual pleasures will turn you into a makeup artist. And the truth is that the people that are involved in evil and doing things that are wrong live a life of betrayal. They act. They're out in public. They have this persona. And they're trying to fool people because they don't want anyone to know the real me. The me that is corrupted, the me that is dying inside, that's empty inside, that's full of pain inside. And so I put on this mask. And so sin causes us to live a life of hypocrisy. And right now, we're seeing all these people being exposed on TV. And the life, they were a hero. They were the hero. And then they became worse than a zero overnight. And many of them are going to jail. So I want you to know, God is saying, if you give your life to the wrong things, not only will you become blind, but you will pay incredible price. God said this, and I'm done. He said, whatever you sow, you will also reap. It is impossible. It is the law of sowing and reaping. It is God's law. Just like you cannot violate gravity. You can say, I don't believe in gravity. I don't care what anybody says. And you can jump, and gravity will win. And so God says, I promise you, if you ignore my laws, there'll be a day, not the first. Remember, you've experienced this, right? You've looked around, nobody, and you've stepped across the line, and nothing happens. And you go, nobody found out. And you take another step. And that's the deceptiveness of sin. And God is so gracious to allow us to take a step, and He's all the time, He's saying, no, don't do it. And then one day, pow, consequences. So God says, you can mock me if that's not true. So God is saying, really, there's only two choices to life. Either there is a God in heaven who has a standard that we should live by, and if we do, He blesses us and we are filled with the joy. Here's the great part about being a Christian. The great part is that I know where my pleasure comes from ultimately. I know this is the end of life, is a deeper relationship with Jesus. That means that I can go to Big Dipper, and I'm not looking for the end-all pleasure. I can just have an ice cream and enjoy it. I can do things in life and know that pleasure is okay, but it's not the thing I'm looking for in life. I've found the thing that's going to give me ultimate joy and pleasure in life. It is Him. Here's a verse for you to remember. I don't have it on your notes. You ought to write this down. It's Psalm 16:11. In Psalm 16:11, the psalmist said this. God said, I will guide you into the path of life. God promised that He would show you the path that leads to life, to good life, to the best life. He said, I will guide you in the path of life. In my presence is fullness of joy. Think about that. Not a little joy, not Big Dipper joy, fullness of joy. I'm talking about a joy that we're going to have in heaven. You know why you're never going to be bored in heaven? Because your heart is going to be exploding with joy. So there won't be any room for you to do anything but just be filled with the joy of God. And so God says, in my presence is fullness of joy. You want more joy in your life? Contentment, satisfaction, meaning? You got to get more of this in you. Jesus said He was the Word. And you get more of Jesus in you, you get more satisfaction. You get more balance. You get more meaning in life. He said, so I will guide you the path of life. In my presence is fullness of joy. At my right hand are pleasures forevermore. Woo-hoo! I mean, that verse is awesome. So you should memorize it and say it every day in prayer. Lord, thank you that in you I can find my joy. It's in you life is in you. It's not in all the things I chase after. Does that mean, again, I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying you shouldn't strive for more. No, God wired us to do well and strive for things. But now I know I'm not trying to find that thing. I've got that thing. Now I can go and have a good time in my business and know that it's really Jesus' business and I'm just doing it for Him. And I can have so much balance in life when I get Him centered in my life. And that's what Ecclesiastes is all about. Well, let's bow our heads in a word of prayer. If God said that getting to know Him is the secret to joy, then I would encourage you to take a step. Get plugged into a small group. Come next Sunday at 9 o'clock. Go to the 301 class. And you will enjoy it. You'll discover your gifts. You'll discover how God has used all those things in your life for a purpose that He's trying to shape you toward. It's a fascinating class for the next 4 weeks, 9 o'clock. And so sign up. I would encourage you to be a person of prayer. You know, there's a person who loves to hear you pray. It's Jesus. And He will always listen. And He will always come and minister to you if you'll pour your heart out to Him. And we have prayer counselors here at the front that we would love to pray with you. If you have a prayer need at the end of the service, just come forward here at the cross and people will be here to pray with you. I know that there are people here today who are at crossroads in their life. And God just says, I know where you're at, how you feel. I just want you to come to me, come toward me. Let me help you. And He will if you'll just surrender. Let's stand to our feet with our heads bowed. And Brother Rich is going to come dismiss us in prayer.